Live. Peace, peace, and blessings, family. Happy Thursday. Again, this is our time to discuss Our Lives Matter. We're going to talk about the violent things that are happening to Black girls and women inside this here United States. And again, I am joined with Sister Rosa, who is going to take it from here. And I'm just going to set up things as we roll along. It's up to you, sis.
All right. Hi, everybody. Peace and blessings. Of course, I'm Rosa again with Our Lives Matter. This week, I have several different cases that I'm going to discuss with you. I hope you'll be able to go to the page, like, and share these stories. So, the first story I'm going to get into is, let me go ahead and pull that up myself. First story I'm going to get to is a missing person, or it was a Jane Doe. And back in February of 2017, a victim, Glenn Street, was reported missing. And, after weeks of searching, intense searching, the case went cold. Back in December, which almost a little over 2 years later, almost 3 years, December 31st, 2019, a deer hunter discovered a skull in a wooded area. And this happened in Perry County, Mississippi. Deputies collected the evidence, sent the skull, of course, to the crime lab, but there was not enough DNA available to determine who the skull belonged to. And 2 months after they found it, 40 more volunteers returned to the area where they found the skull to look for more evidence. And they did discover 2 human femur bones. Femur bones are very important because they have a lot of genetic material in it. And they were able, they held that DNA key that would match the remains to the lady who was missing. So now that they have identified the young lady who you see on the screen, they have changed it from a missing persons case to a homicide investigation. And there is a number attached with the article that anyone with information about her disappearance or even her murder is asked to contact the sheriff's office at 601-964-8461. And again, that's out of Perry County, Mississippi. She had been missing since February 21st, 2017, and the first remains had been found of hers on December 31st, 2019. So hopefully, we get some good leads on that and are able to have this case closed for her family, come to a, close and at least to a conviction. Now, this next case of another unidentified woman who this happened out in DeKalb County in Georgia. Were you able to? Okay, you're putting that up. And they're trying to identify this woman, and this is nearly a month after her body was found. And the sketch that you see on your screen is a new sketch, and investigators are hoping to uncover her identity. And her body was found March 22nd near an intersection of Rockland and Plunkett Roads in DeKalb County. And they have not been able to identify her through conventional means like going through mug shots, missing person reports, or flyers. So, they don't have any report of anybody missing that fits the description of the person that they found, this sketch you're seeing. Now, they don't know how the woman got to where she was. They believe she's between 35 to 45 years old. They don't know how long her body had been at that location before it was even found. So they're still awaiting autopsy results. They said that she's roughly about 5'2" and about 80 pounds. And she had short black hair, brown eyes, and was wearing blue jeans, a khaki colored shirt, a black jacket, and Spider-Man socks when her body was found. It could be a situation of a person who might have been homeless or, drug addicted. and, her family, she may have lost contact, because a lot of people who suffer from homelessness are transient. They go from place to place. She might not even be from DeKalb County, especially with a lot of these, try not to get too political, but with a lot of these liberal programs, how they're treating homeless people, giving them bus tickets and, letting them go to other parts of the country. So she could be from the West Coast for all we know. She could be from up north or somewhere south. We really don't know. But hopefully this sketch, if people share this, and I believe in the power of social media, hopefully if once this is shared across social media, maybe somebody can identify who she is. So again, if you go to the page, you'll see this story. Share it within your networks. Now, these next two stories are about people who have been paroled or are up for parole. This first case is out of the Cleveland area. So go to my page, share this, especially if you live in the Cleveland area or have family or friends who live in Cleveland. This case is about a man named Kevin Ross, whose face appears on the screen. Now, he had been convicted of slitting the throat of his sister and his 10-year-old nephew, and he planned to kill his entire family to get more inheritance. He had both a history of violence and mental problems, and he was being treated at a veterans hospital at the time of the murders. He received 2 consecutive life sentences for his crime, and now he's been coming up for parole every 5 years. His next parole hearing is sometime this month. Now, the crime happened back in July 12th of 1977, and they had responded to a call from Arthur Phelps. Now, Mr. Phelps said he returned home from working at his job at the Standard Oil Company, and he found the bodies of his wife, Georgina, and 10-year-old stepson, Gregory, in the living room of their home, and both had been stabbed, and he said blood, was everywhere. And the 10-year-old had been horrifically slashed, where the report said he had almost been decapitated, and he was found on the couch. It was just horrible. Now, initially the police did arrest the husband, but after speaking with him and 2 of the victim's sisters, they began to focus on her brother because of his history of mental illness. Now, one thing to be very cognizant of with the Veterans Hospital is that people can voluntarily admit themselves to a program saying they're having mental issues, they think they're going to kill themselves, whatever. This still goes on today, and I know because I have a close relationship with the Veterans Hospital. And what happens is they go into these programs, and they're allowed to come and go as they please. So they're out in the community from, say, 5 o'clock in the morning till about 8, 10 o'clock at night, depending. So he had left the hospital, went to his sister's house, killed her and her son, and went back to the VA hospital. Now, police found out that, he was a suspect because a couple neighbors had identified him down to what he was wearing to the police. And they positively identified him as the man she saw going to the side porch and being let in by the victim at about 11 o'clock on the day of the murder. Now, she said about 15 minutes later, she saw him standing in front of a store wearing the same sweater and pants police found at the hospital. And they spoke with his mother, who said 2 years prior to that, he had got upset with her and told her he was going to kill her. He then cut her, causing her to be confined to a hospital. Now, while they were looking for him, the police received a call from the VA hospital, and they said a groundskeeper maintenance person had found a white towel with red stains on it, a 10-inch knife with a 6-inch blade with blood and hair on it, and a pair of blue denim pajamas. All those items were hidden in bushes around the grounds. Well, eventually, once they searched his room and everything, they found some other bloody items, and they were able to positively identify the blood to the victims. But he's up for parole, as I said, and this man is a danger, especially with him having mental health issues. He does not need to be back in the community. He needs to stay confined in prison, what have you. Now, if you click on the link when you go to the page, there's a form that you can fill out to block his parole. And I want to stress that if you fill out this form, all the information is kept confidential. I do a lot of research. So, because I want to give my followers and others the accurate information, because a lot of times that information is withheld from us, from Black folks in particular, which I do believe is why a lot of criminals are re-released into our community.
Sis, what happened to your sound? You went down.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. I had a call. Can you hear me?
Yep, you good.
Okay, so a lot of information is withheld from us when it comes to these parole hearings, which is a reason I do believe a lot of criminals are re-released into our communities. But again, once you fill this form out, it's strictly confidential. It will only be available to the victims and their families and the Ohio Parole Board. And it's not a public record. So again, you do not have to worry about anything. And it will not be released by the Ohio Parole Authority. So you fill out the information and you leave a comment as to why you feel this person should not be released back into the community, especially because of the horrific nature of the crime. It's releasing him at any point would be a complete injustice to the Georgina and Gregory, her son. It would also, demean the cruelty to them. Placing him back on the streets at any point would pose a very credible risk to the community. And based on his horrific crimes, and he has a poor chance of rehabilitation, his serious mental issues also, that should be a requirement for him to serve the 2 consecutive life sentences he was given in 1977. So if you feel compelled to, please support the victims and their family in keeping this person locked up. He serves no purpose to be back on the street. So again, if you're in the Cleveland area or have family or friends or know someone in that area, share it. One of the followers came to my page and she was shocked because she said she lives in Cleveland and she was not aware that this person could possibly be paroled. And please understand, it is more likely than not for a Black murderer of women and children to be released back into the community. Now, this second case is a man who actually was paroled on March 9th. Now, this man was given a minimum and a max sentence of 10 to 50 years. He was found guilty of attempted murder, rape, and kidnapping of his 17-year-old sister-in-law, and he stabbed her more than 12 times. And he kidnapped her, took her to a wooded area, raped her. He then stabbed her, as I said, approximately 12 times and left her there for dead. She was able to crawl to the road where a police officer found her near death. Now, miraculously, she survived. And like I said, a jury convicted him. He had been up for parole 6 times. And actually he had other very he had a lot of crimes prior to this incident. So he had been paroled 6 times, not up for parole, but paroled 6 times. And he was each time he was brought back to prison for parole violations. Each time he was released. Now back in 1975, that's when this happened. And this is kind of graphic again. He as he saw his the 17-year-old sister-in-law, he saw her driving, and he kind of flagged her down and told her he needed a ride to an apartment somewhere on the north side to look for a job. This is out of Ohio too, out of Cleveland. Now on the way, he said he changed his mind and he wanted to meet a friend at some park. Now after they got to the park, he got out the car, approached her with a steak knife, told her he was going to rape her, and forced her out the car. He took her to a secluded area, assaulted her, raped her at knife point. He stabbed her, and she was stabbed in the arm, back, chest, and neck. And he left her for dead and fled the scene. She was literally bleeding to death, but she somehow managed to crawl to the road, and a policeman found her. They rushed her to the hospital. She was admitted in a critical condition, and he was arrested later that day. They actually said she had almost bled completely out. She had lost almost half of her blood supply. Now, he went up for parole, and he had been denied, but he went up for this last time. They said in 2010, let me go back a little bit. In 2010, when he was up for parole, they stated he had good conduct, and they just said he was not suitable for parole because he just wasn't suitable. But they said he indicates he had a motivation to complete parole successfully. Now, come to today, he's out. Now, he was a child rapist and attempted child murderer. And the legal system kind of adjudicated him as a sexual predator, which means he's the most dangerous type of all sexual offenders. And he has been released into a nursing home. He's not what you would consider debilitated or anything like that. So now he's a threat not only to the staff, the female staff there, but he's also definitely posed a risk to the vulnerable female patients in the nursing home. And he should have served that entire 50 years. And, again, I want to get into a little bit of a cultural thing that goes on with us Black folks. The reason my thinking or hypothesis, this is just my opinion of why violent criminals are re-released into our communities. We have a stronghold belief on no snitching, keeping it in the family, coddling these known monsters in our community. Judges, defense attorneys, prosecutors, they look at how we treat one another. A lot of times we get what we consider light sentencing when it comes to heinous, brutal crimes because of our culture of coddling the Black male in our communities. We're just gonna have to lay it out there and say it like it is. So people feel that, hey, they don't care. They don't tell when they know people do crimes in their communities. They intimidate others into telling the truth and coming forward. And then you run the risk if you do come forward of getting brutalized, attacked, or killed yourself for telling the truth about crime and criminals in your own community. Our communities are straight up breeding grounds for crime, and we have to face that reality and stop questioning why these criminals are re-released into the community when we know why they're released into the community. So I'm gonna get off my little soapbox about that, but continue to stand firm in your belief and protect Black women, Black women, girls, and are most vulnerable in the community, because we're being slaughtered. Now, the next story is just a little FYI. Since we've been on lockdown since March was the first month since 2002, 18 years, when we had no school shootings. That's just a little FYI to let you know the state of affairs that we're in. So it has been 18 years since there has been no school shooting. That says a lot about us as a society, and that's not just Black folks, because we know most mass shootings is white folks. But I just want to put that out there, that the lockdown, is a shame that we can't use our moral code to not harm one another, that we had to be forced into isolation to treat each other humanely. And it wasn't by choice. It seems to me it was by force. Okay. My next case is out of Orlando, Florida. Portia Abraham, 34-year-old Black female, it was a domestic disturbance call. And once they got there, authorities found a Black female stabbed in the chest and shot in her neck. They interviewed the victim's daughter, who was at home during the time, and she said that she was young. She said mommy and uncle were fighting with their words and hands, according to an arrest report. That's what she said. She saw her uncle stab her mother in the chest multiple times. Now, the victim was a mother of 4 children. The horrible thing about this is that the man who killed her was her uncle. And they have arrested him. He's being held. He doesn't have any bond. But, and take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt. He's saying that him and his niece had a consensual sexual relationship. They were up doing coke and ecstasy the night before the incident happened. So he said she was going to kill herself. And I don't know, he said it was self-defense because they started fighting at some point. She pointed the rifle at him. But of course, detectives said that the rifle was found in a different room than her body, and it would have been very bloody if it had been in her possession or her proximity when she was stabbed. It only had a few blood smudges on it. So I don't take the word of heinous, vicious killers seriously. The victim is not here to speak for herself. I believe he added that to say that he had a sexual incestuous relationship with her for years. I believe he said that as a way to defame her. So my belief is that he may have raped her, because it just doesn't make sense what he's saying. I believe he raped her. She might have told him she was going to report it or something. They got into a fight. He killed her. He probably saying they had a sexual incestuous relationship because her autopsy is still being held, and the evidence might come out that he might have genetic evidence in her vagina, and so he's not dumb. He knows that. So let me just go ahead and say, me and my niece had been screwing for years. But I don't believe anything that he says. Again, it's just another way to defame a woman in her death. She's not here to stand up for herself. So it's important, at least to me, as an advocate for Black women and children, to refute a lot of the crap that these killers say about us. And that's we don't have enough Black women advocating for other Black women. We have a lot of misogyny in our community, and even on my own page, I have to delete and block Black women because they sit up and victim blame. You cannot victim blame a victim, especially a dead victim, who can't speak on their own behalf. So for me, it's important for me to speak out for Black women and girls. Now, my next case is another case of a Black woman. This one was hard for me. Now, on April 10th, Shalitha Graves was found dead in her home with a gunshot wound to her head. She was found on her living room couch. Now, the most terrible thing about her crime, her son has been arrested for this. Her son. And not only had her son been arrested for it, he swallowed the shell casing as to hide the evidence. So they arrested him, and he eventually on Easter Sunday morning, because it happened on April 10th, and they charged him with 7 felony counts, including second-degree murder and evidence tampering after everything I just said had happened. Now, while he was in jail, he gave a jail guard a fired cartridge casing, which he had apparently passed while going to the bathroom. This man killed his mama and ate the damn shell casing. And he's being charged with second-degree murder, tampering with evidence, a felon in possession of a firearm, resisting and obstructing police, and 3 other counts related to felony firearms charges. And he's supposed to be arraigned soon, 67th District Court out of Genesee County in Michigan. I think that's one of the most horrible things I have ever heard. And before we even, before somebody says that, oh, he sounds like he was mentally ill, this man doesn't have a history of mental illness. I've already researched it. I'm originally from Michigan. I have contacts in Michigan. So no, this man does not have a history of mental illness. And I'm going to leave it at that and move on to our next story, which is out of Wichita, Kansas. On April 13th, a mother of 3 was found dead, and the man said that police say killed her after an apparent murder-suicide. She was the mother of 3 children, and the man who killed her, in this instance, it just happened to be a white man. He was her boyfriend. Police ended up finding out about it because they received a call from the 44-year-old guy asking his relative to pick up his children due to an emergency. The family member called the police, and when police arrived, they saw the family member outside the home with the small children. Officers saw a sign of disturbance at the home, and they found the victim with a gunshot wound and her boyfriend with an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. And it was also learned that he was facing alleged federal charges. Of course, her children right now are all safe with relatives, and they said that, the most important thing right now for them is just trying to focus on happy memories. And in this case, it's Cherie Short, again, a 33-year-old Black female out of Wichita, Kansas, who was murdered viciously by her boyfriend. And this week has been a horrific week, this last week, where a lot of violence against Black women has actually been happening due to family members. This next case is out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, back on April 14th. This next case, Quenisha Paul, who was 18, she died after she was shot around 12:45 at her home. And police spokesman said that Keegan Baldry, 22 years old, was later arrested on account of negligent homicide. Now they're saying he's accused of accidentally shooting the teen, but I have spoken with family on this case. You can go to my page and go to this post. Family is on that post, and they are saying that this murder was not accidental. And I have spoken with them personally. And again, okay, I don't know how he was related to her, if he was a cousin or whatnot. I actually didn't even ask the family when I talked to them, because the important thing is he was definitely a family member. And the young lady was actually supposed to be graduating, and now she's murdered. She wanted to go into the armed services, and now she was killed by a family member. Again, just a terrible, terrible incident. I know are we good on time? We're at the
Yes,
31-minute mark.
keep
Oh, I can keep going. Okay.
Yep.
Now, all right. Now my next case is it's a child abuse case. This happened out of Darlington, South Carolina, and this man was accused of viciously beating a child with a belt and phone chargers. And ladies, Black women especially, I know a lot of us may have been deprived growing up of love and affection or whatnot. And we look to any old man for comfort. Stop. Well, I really don't care what grown women do, but when you have children, you need to put those feelings aside and protect your child. Boyfriends are not babysitters, and we need to stop giving these. I don't even want to call them men, because majority of the time they're no good. They're the dregs of society, and it's just terrible. Now the mother's been arrested, but the deputies are searching for the boyfriend. After he's 31 years old, Lamoncio Kirksey, he brutally beat a child with belts, cords, and phone chargers. Now he's wanted for unlawful neglect of the child. He's still on the run. And like I said, the mother is actually 30 years old. Her name is Catherine Fuller. Now the authorities are saying they believe she allowed Kirksey to abuse the child. I'm kind of on the fence with that. But the fact is, as a mother, you have a duty to protect your child. Now, she's being charged with unlawful neglect of a child. So if you're out, if you're in the South Carolina area, have family or friends, share this story. This man needs to be brought to justice. It's not fair for just the woman to be arrested, but we know many women are in prison today because of some BS behind a man. So just share the story, and make sure it's out there so this criminal could be can come to justice. Now, this next story is another case of a boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, killing his girlfriend. This young lady is 23 years old. And the man who killed her, he's 42 years old. Now, people sometimes don't want to hear what I'm about to say, but the truth is the truth. He's 42, she's 23. He's damn near 20 years older than her. We have to understand that a lot of times these older men are getting in these relationships with young women because it's a control issue. And a lot of these young women who have been murdered that I have been tracking since last year diligently on my own. A lot of these young women who have been murdered by angry ex-boyfriends, 50-50, they're usually older gentlemen, older husbands and boyfriends, and the women are sometimes at least 20 years younger than the perpetrator. Now, Miss Zena Nichols is was 23, and this happened out of Hyattsville, Maryland. And actually, fire department was responding to a call, and they found her. And once they got there, they found smoke just coming from the windows and door of the building where she lived at. As they worked to extinguish the fire, they discovered her body. It was burned beyond recognition in the bedroom where the fire was mostly contained. And once they took her and did autopsy, not only was she burned to death, she was shot to death before she was murdered. So he killed her and then used the fire as a way to used the fire as a way to cover up for his crime. And if you go to my page, you will see a picture of the perpetrator, his name and everything. It's out of Prince George's County, and his name is John Harris. He's 42, and there is an arrest warrant out for him. He's from Chilham, Maryland, for the fatal shooting of her. And her family and friends are very, very messed up behind this. Very, very messed up. Again, go to the page, share the story, and especially share the updates of the person who did this to her. Now, my next story is out of Selma, Alabama, and the victim in this case is a 56-year-old Renisha Caver. It happened in the afternoon of April 11, and the victim and her adult daughter were taken to the hospital after being shot. The daughter is going to survive, but unfortunately, Miss Caver died as a result from her injuries, and the man who killed her was her boyfriend. His name is Melvin Marshall, 44 years old. He has been arrested. He had fled the scene, but he turned himself in, accompanied by a bounty hunter. But he's charged with murder and attempted murder, and he's being held without bond in the Dallas County Jail. But again, a case of a boyfriend, someone who's supposed to love and cherish you, who killed her. Now, my next story is it's kind of it's twofold. This next story. The man you see on your screen name is Alto Miles. And Mr. Miles, let me make sure I'm getting the right story. Okay, Mr. Miles is connected to 2 double homicides. I'm sorry, I'm getting this message on my screen. Okay, he's connected to 2 homicides and the killings of 4 people, including 2 women. He's a convicted drug trafficker whose adult criminal history goes back to the 90s, according to records. He was arrested in connection with the killings of 4 people. The first 2 were William Bowen and Michael Eves, and the last 2 are Bridget Carter and Tasha Mason. I'm sorry, I didn't mean what I said originally. I think I started off saying someone else's name. Mr. Miles is wanted. He's being held in custody for the murders of 4 people: Bridget Carter and Tasha Mason, 35. Bridget Carter was 56. This man went on a killing spree out of Cincinnati back in April 10th. And they found 2 women unresponsive inside an apartment. And when the women were found dead on the scene, prior to those 2 women, like I said, 2 men had been found. I don't know what this man, Alto Miles, I don't know what his connection is. They're still working on that. But he was released from prison. The perpetrator was released from prison back in 2018, and he was currently on parole when he killed these 4 people. And he was the reason he was in prison when he was paroled was because he was convicted in 2016 of trafficking heroin and coke. And his first conviction was being a felon in possession of a gun back in '97. And he legally, of course, as a convicted felon, cannot possess a gun. So Ohio authorities are trying to work out, was this just some random killing? Is he a serial killer? You know what? They don't know. They don't know what was going on with this man. Now, the next case is the one I was a little bit premature in talking about, was this young lady. Her name is Sharice Kerbeam. She's 36. She's out of Waldorf. This happened in Waldorf, Maryland. Now, authorities believe an Indianapolis man may have killed a woman in his Southwest Side apartment before traveling to Maryland and killing another woman and taking his own life. I don't have the information of the first victim out of Indianapolis that was killed. Now, I can tell you that I know her professional name is Holistic Tara. She was a very well-known and popular massage therapist, a Black woman who had her own business doing holistic medicine. But as I said, her name is Holistic Tara. You can find her you can find her pages on Instagram as well as Facebook. She was his first victim. After he killed her, he traveled from Indianapolis to Maryland, and he killed Miss Kerbeam, and police were called to the Hilton Garden after receiving a tip from the Indianapolis police. I don't know, what led them to this conclusion. The story is still coming out, but Indianapolis police alerted Maryland police that a man in one of the hotel rooms may have killed a woman and then committed suicide. And Indianapolis police said that same man may also have killed a woman earlier in the week who was found dead in his apartment, and that's what the tip said. So again, another murder-suicide. And I know a lot of you have been seeing reports and news reports that this isolation is causing a spike in domestic violence, and it really is. It really is. I can see from the data and from the stories that I find on my own and research on my own, that Black women are definitely we're being killed. It's an uptick. And when I compare my spreadsheet from last year to this year, we're already near the same amount of killings, which I believe this April, we're going to surpass last year. And I believe the totals for this year are going to definitely surpass last year's numbers. Now, this next story you see on your screen is out of Birmingham, Alabama. This is my last story. This is Miss Kanisha Fuller. Miss Kanisha Fuller was found shot to death inside of a vehicle. Now, that vehicle that she was found shot to death in was an unmarked Birmingham police vehicle. She was taken to the trauma center at the University of Alabama at Birmingham, in the trauma center, where she was pronounced dead. And of course, her family said that her death is a tremendous loss, and they're not they're not able to talk right now, which is understandable. Now, like I said, she was in an unmarked police vehicle with a male Birmingham police detective who was not on duty at the time. He was not injured. The person who did this to her, you can put that up, this next one. The person who did that to her is this woman you'll be seeing shortly on the screen. Is another Black woman.
Wow.
It was a love triangle. The woman who killed her was also a detective. So a female Birmingham police officer is now charged with the killing of another Black woman over probably a nothing ass man, because from what I see and from what I've been hearing from friends close to her, close to the story, he was cheating on both of them. He was, playing both sides. And but I just find it odd that she was in an unmarked police car, and this other detective, Alfreda Fluker, 39 years old, she was also a police detective, like I said, and she was off duty at the time. Both of the officers were off duty, but they were the man was in an unmarked police vehicle with the victim. I don't know if it was a setup. This story just does not, it just don't sit well with me. It just doesn't sit well with me. And the thing, the 39-year-old killer, Miss Fluker, she had been with the department 50 years, and she was assigned with the crime reduction team. The irony. So, it's just, like I said, it's just terrible. We are losing our lives, Black women. And usually a Black man is at the center of all of this. Now, this woman had lost her life because he's seeing both of them and he's involved in a love triangle. And then on the other hand, you have women who are being murdered by boyfriends, ex-boyfriends, husbands, and folks.
Brothers.
It's just disgusting. I just don't know what it's going to take for us to get on track to correcting this behavior that's going on in the community. But again, I appreciate you all listening. I appreciate you, Rolanda, for giving me, giving me a platform to speak about these crimes that's going on in our community. It really means so much. And I can tell you that victims, families, as well as other people are very appreciative of the platform that you're giving me to let their stories of their loved ones be heard. So I appreciate you more than you know, and others are appreciating you more than you know. So thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity, because this should be at the top of our list. We can't be dying like this and then just think that that's okay. We're not some casualty. We're not a floor. We're not some object. We're not a tree branch. We are the mother of civilization. We birthed every human being. So you gotta protect us. And this should be on the top of everybody's Facebook page, or whatever discussion at the dinner, or watch how you're interacting with your sons, or what you're teaching them, or what you are allowing them to think that it's okay. Because a lot of this stuff, I feel like it has a lot to do with ownership, or you gonna leave me, or you don't make me feel like a man, and you ain't gonna, like, I could just hear it, and that's sad. That's really sad. You should be able to walk away from somebody if they don't want to be with you. Just leave.
And the ironic thing that it's not ironic, it's disgusting. I use the wrong term. Some of these Black men who are so misogynistic, they come on my page and they always blame the women.
Mm-hmm.
These particular, so it's a certain faction that does this. They blame the victim, or they'll take up for the perpetrator and say, and you all know what I'm about to say. Oh, he was raised by a single mother. I never understand the mentality of saying that a person who does certain things,
Right.
it always falls on the lap of the Black single mother.
Right on.
She didn't have this child by herself. Parthenogenesis, y'all need to stop with that bull crap. It ain't happening.
Right on.
We ain't amphibians. We don't impregnate ourselves.
Right on.
And why is it that the absentee father is never said to be culpable? Because his absence means that his son had a lack of. He had a lack of a father pouring into him what he should have. Yes, I know some women say I'm the mother and the father, but you know what? We need to get away from that, and you all need to stop saying that. You're a mother. You cannot be a mother and a father. You might be taking up the slack in rearing your child and doing everything that you need to do, but you're not the mother and the father. You're a mother trying to do the best you can because you don't have the participation of the father, whether you're married to him or not. To me, that doesn't make a difference. And that's a whole different discussion. But the point is, that child has a father, be it a girl or a boy. They need that other half put into them. A woman cannot give a son advice on how to be a man, and a mother can't even give her daughter advice on how to navigate, with males, interacting with them in society. So we need to put down and stop this single mother myth and bullcrap. Yes, it's a lot of single parent Black homes, mostly headed by Black women. I'm not going to be dismissive and say that's not the case, but I will say this as a nurse who works in the community, who has worked in rural as well as urban areas. We have single white women too. And when something happens to their children, or their children are accused of doing horrible things, you don't hear white folks saying, oh, that's because she was a single mom. You don't hear them saying that. In fact, a lot of other cultures, they dismiss the trash of their community. Black folks, we like to say, oh, that was he making the Black community look bad. No, he ain't making the Black community look bad. He making himself look bad, but the Black community is making itself look bad by giving crutches to excuses and laying the fault of the blame in the lap of the Black woman. We need to get away from that. It takes two to make a child, and everybody has a responsibility in rearing that child. But like I said, I'm tired of seeing the victim blaming, and everything is it all roads lead to the Black woman is what I'm trying to say, that a lot of these Black men are saying. And I never understand, where's their culpability? Where's their responsibility? And that's what, we need to start changing our narrative, changing the way we think. Because when you start changing the way you think and your behavior, the community is a reflection of that. And as Black women, we have the ability to change the course of how the community goes.
Right on.
We are the mothers. We are the first teachers. And if we don't see that as one of the greatest responsibilities. And it doesn't matter to me whether you had a child by birth or because out of or by love. You could be an auntie or someone who just takes care of children in the community. You don't have to be you don't have to carry a child to be a mother. I'm tasking all Black women in the community
Right on.
to change the way that you think, because when you start thinking a certain way, it becomes a habit. And when those habits start becoming regular, when they're just like you can develop negative habits, you can develop positive habits. Start being careful about who you're around. Start being aware of the conversations and what you're doing around your children, the information that you're feeding them, the information that you are in control of while they're with you. Now, once a child is away from you, we know that peer pressure and other things happen. But once a child is with you, you are responsible for that child. Stop letting devices and everything be what raises your children. Right now, while we're in this isolation or lockdown, we have a chance to really take stock of who we are and what message we're sending out to the world. And that's what I want Black women to start doing as a whole. We need to start checking ourselves and start, taking responsibility and control of what we actually can. And hopefully that will become a way for the next generation to start thinking and having a positive course for change, because we can't keep doing things the old way, people. We just can't.
Well, sister, thank you so much. As we sign off, the first two cases you showed, I haven't done this in a while. I'm gonna start doing it again. I would showcase Black girls that are missing. And
Okay.
those two reminded me of those Black girls who are missing. So we have, some say 65,000, some say 75,000 Black girls and women that are missing in the United States. And I just don't think they're tied up in somebody's basement. I just heard a couple of cases where it was a boyfriend, a brother, or uncle. Like, I don't think it's people mainly outside of our homes. I think it's people that's inside of our homes who know
Yes.
where people are, who know where these Black girls are, who know where these Black women are. I mean,
because we protect we protect perpetrators.
Yep.
And blame victims.
Right on.
Because trust me, we know who are doing these things in our community. We know the sick uncle. We know the dirty old man who lives down the street. We know these things.
Right on.
We don't run them out of town on a rail, because if the justice system doesn't do it, we damn sure can do it.
That's real talk. Thank you so much, sis. And I will see you next week.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Hold on. We are